Let's go, girls.
Just tell me that I can and I'll show you things that you couldn't believe.
Let's go. It's Women Talking Football, or WTF for short, of course. Not to be confused with WFT. My name is Mallory Hartley. I'm the associate producer here at Dave Campbell's Texas Football and Dave Campbell's Texan Live. Once again, sitting in the host/hostess's chair. And sitting over there, looking at her computer, making sure you can see me and you can see her, making us sound good. She is the executive producer of this place. It's AP! Ashley Pickle, what's up, girl?
Yo, every time you say hostess, it makes me think of like a
donut? Like the hostess's donut?
Oh, no, I was going to say like a hostess at Chili's, you know, like they
Oh.
sit you down at the restaurants and stuff like that. Like
Hostess's chair.
Yeah,
Is that-
I've always thought that.
but that's correct, right?
No, it's
Like,
definitely correct.
Okay, I was like,
the only time I ever think of hostess is
Right.
like a hostess.
Correct. Yeah, that's funny. My mind.
But you're just
immediately
making
went,
it the feminine version of host, which
Yes.
is correct.
Yes, a male does sit here once a day, so
I
have
think
to say host.
I think host is
Does host include like both
Yeah,
female and
I think
male?
so.
Okay. Well, I like to just elaborate on that a little bit.
I like
more
it, though.
because, okay.
I'm just saying I chuckle every time.
Correct. How are you doing? You doing okay?
Yeah, it's week 5.
It is week 5.
We're chugging along.
We are chugging along. That's for sure. We're an internet show. We're here every Thursday talking high school football, sometimes college football around the Lone Star State. And dude, look at that. It's episode 50
I know.
of Women Talking Football. I was going to put together some kind of cute little compilation video, but
I ain't got time for that.
I did not have any time to do that this week. This week has been... I'm just kind of glad it's almost over.
Mountain of crap to get through. As much as I want to make a cute little video, I ain't got time for that.
I know. Maybe next week for episode 51 if I have
Which
any
would be
sort of
more on
time,
brand
so.
for the WTF brand, if you ask me.
It sure would. All right, folks. On today's show, we're going way down south to talk about the Coastal Bend and the Golden Triangle regions, and we're going to bring in our girl from KRIS 6, Miss Larissa Liska, who is the sports director down there, to give us a little bit of an inside look as to what the Coastal Bend high school football is looking like this year.
Didn't we talk to Larissa when she was in Amarillo? Wasn't she in Amarillo beforehand?
I don't remember.
I think
We've
we had her
talked
on
to so many.
because we had Ashley on last year from
Yes,
the
we did.
Coastal Bend, but she is now in Miami or somewhere in Florida. She looks really happy over there.
Yeah.
And Larissa, I believe, was in Amarillo when we talked Amarillo football last year.
Yeah, we've had so many like really wonderful female
Guests,
sports directors and reporters across the state. I can't even keep straight like who's where.
Well, and then it's
nowadays,
funny when
and
they start
then-
switching
exactly
stations
right.
in the state.
right, exactly. But
Which rules? I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah.
all due respect to our friends out in Amarillo, but that's a crazy move to go
Oh,
from
yeah.
Amarillo and the Panhandle down to the beach.
yeah, you're like way North Texas, and then you're going.
She was like,
way,
"What is this
way, way down
humidity?"
south." Literally, yeah, you're going from extreme cold to like kind of very humid down there. So, really excited to talk to her. But before all of that fun, it's time to reveal our Week 5 Texas Football Tonight Spotlight games. And we're going to head over to Miss AP over there as she reveals our 9 Spotlight games for Week 5 of Texas Football Tonight.
Yeah, I guess I went a little crazy.
You did. I don't blame
well,
you.
2 of them are Thursday night games, so I don't really count that. We
Yeah,
really
yeah.
just have one additional Friday game, but
night
it's because
game.
we had such a good slate. Starting off with a matchup that is probably not on anyone's radar, but I feel like could be a really cool story. So I wanted to try and tell the story of that. Cy Ridge taking on Houston Northbrook. Both of these 6A programs definitely not ranked, and the reason being is they're both 0-3. And you might be thinking, why in the world would you highlight a game between two people who are 0-3? Because someone's going for their first win.
Right.
We talk so much about the Duncanvilles, about the Westlakes, about the Lake Travis. Like, these are kids that are suiting up to play the exact same game, that are working their butts off, and one of these teams will get a taste of what victory is like, and I feel like that could really springboard forward. So Gavin Moritz actually will have a story with Houston Northbrook head Coach Garza, and he talked with him yesterday about trying to revitalize a program there in Houston Northbrook, and very, very, very excited about this. So you can watch that tonight on Texan Live. If you don't watch it tonight, then you can catch the recap tomorrow. Moving on to our next Thursday game, you can watch this game tonight from the Puffield with Tommy Yarish. The number 10th ranked Belton is going on to take on their district rival in the Pflugerville Panthers. Belton has looked exceptional. Pflugerville, this could be a statement win for them if they're able to pull this one out. Tommy Yarish will be on the call tomorrow on Texas Football Tonight. We will have his thoughts in the recap edition. Moving on to our Friday night games, a tasty one down in the 3A classification, 3A Division 1, Kirbyville taking on East Chambers. This is one that I'm super excited about. If you like small school, hard-hitting ball of guys going out there and just being ball players, this is the one that you'll want to keep your eye on. Incredibly excited for this one, as our very own Gavin Moritz will be on the call there from Buccaneer Stadium. His younger brother, Garrison. Good old Gary running the camera. So
Let's
join
go.
the Moritz brothers as they bring you Kirbyville and East Chambers. We'll be talking to them at halftime. This one needs no introduction, a tasty one down there in Southeast Texas. The number 2 ranked Silsbee Tigers in 4A Division 2 taking on district foe in Hiawatha Hickman's West Orange Stark squad. Silsbee has been the Draylon Miller show like no other. On Texas Football Tonight, we'll be highlighting this one. All of his, I'm sure to be crazy touchdown catches, and Greg Powers will be joining us to take a look in the Cruton Corner with the top 10 receivers across the state.
Surprise, surprise, we're going to be talking about them a lot today.
You'll see a lot of Draylon Miller tomorrow, so excited to see that one. This one makes my Hill Country heart very happy. Down in the greater Austin area, Lampasas, Badger, 4A Division 1, taking on 4A Division 2's Wimberley Texans. This one, just another really good measuring stick for both of these two teams. I know that Wimberley is a classification lower than Lampasas, but Jet Walker, the Lampasas running back, has looked absolutely electric through the first 4 weeks of play. Wimberley got a huge win over Brock at one point, and then they look to continue that going. This would be a statement win for Wimberley if they were able to pull this one off. Should be star-studded cast all across the field. Then another one that needs absolutely no introductions. It is that week down in the 5-1-2, the Battle of the Lakes, as Mallory said. The 4th-ranked Westlake Shaps taking on the 8th-ranked Lake Travis Cavaliers. And we've talked about it a little bit if you've been watching TFT. The buzz around this game all week has felt a little lackluster, like it hasn't been there like it has in years past. But it's funny because every day that continues to go on throughout the week, I feel like more people are going, oh my goodness, it's Westlake Lake Travis week. Like, there's a lot of times that these two teams play in like the 11th week of the season, and so it's for the district championship. Spoiler alert, it'll probably be for the district championship, even though it's happening in week 5. So
Also,
go ahead.
I was going to say, also, when you typically think of Westlake and Lake Travis, you think of offense, right? Offense, star-studded quarterbacks. But this year, it's kind of more like all eyes are going to be towards both defenses, I think.
Honestly, yeah. Caden Leon has done a good job as a Lake Travis quarterback, but it is funny, like you said, that that's not the most notable portion of this. So incredibly excited to see this one as the Battle of the Lakes happening, I believe. It's our Austin crews down there doing that. Then, heading up north to the DFW we go. Euless Trinity taking on the 10th-ranked North Crowley Panthers there in 6A at beautiful Crowley ISD Stadium. James Tritley will be on the call for this one. Let me tell you, North Crowley, obviously under Ray Gates, has had a lot of success the past year. They are looking to continue that, but do not sleep on Euless Trinity. Their running back, Josh Bell, has looked outstanding. If you get caught sleeping on Josh Bell, he will hurt you. So excited to watch Raygate's squad try and negate the yardage
Shut him
there from Josh Bell, because that is a difficult task to do. Staying in the DFW is the Lancaster Tigers at a 5A Division I host their district foe out of East Texas, as John King and the Longview Lobos, the second-ranked team in 5A Division I, make the trek back to the DFW. Very, very interested in this one, because Lancaster has not lived up to their potential yet. I believe they're a little bit injury-ridden, so that could cause some issues. But the thing that I like about this game is that if Lancaster is going to try and shift their season, this will be the game to do it. And so we'll have our answer, I feel like, at this point, because if they don't win this one, they might mess around and miss the playoffs as a whole. But if Leon Paul can get his squad going, this would be the one. Maybe even Longview underestimating them a little bit. Big chance for some upset potential there. And finally, rounding it out, the big dogs in 6A, coming out of the District of Doom there in District 11, the number 1 ranked Duncanville Panthers, taking on their foes from across I-20 in the Cedar Hill Longhorns. Cedar Hill, again, a squad trying to bounce back under new first-year head coach, seeing what they can get going. Duncanville has looked like an absolute machine. Like, Tepper said it earlier on TFT, and I, again, hate to give Tepper credit, but he was like, I just feel bad for anyone playing Duncanville. Just in general.
A slaughterhouse right now.
You could put them up against anybody, and it's going to be a tall task.
The defense is terrifying.
Absolutely. But as we know, in District 11, anything can happen. So we will be checking into that one periodically as well. But an incredible slate there for Week 5 of Texas Football Tonight. We hope that you will join us tomorrow, 7:30 to 10, for free, Free, wherever you're watching this show, if you're on YouTube or, not wherever. On YouTube. Or TexanLive.com. Share the link with your friends, and we will be there to party all night with you.
Yes, Nick Lopius, of course, back in as host, and Ishmael Johnson is making his return as analyst on Texas Football Tonight tomorrow night, starting at 7:30. We hope that you will join us there.
We thought we could get rid of him.
We thought we could get rid of him.
And he keeps coming back.
He just keeps showing up.
I was hoping he would just stay in Minnesota.
Me too. I don't know if you watched the beginning of ROF, the Republic of Football, yesterday, but Carter sat here as the host, and he opened up the show with, so Ish quit, and then he just looked at the camera, and I was like,
that's so good.
He's still here. He's in Minnesota right now.
Yes, and a quick shout out too, as I don't know if we gave Shmail a shout out on WTF, but Ish was in Minnesota all week because he was a part of the 2023 cohort of the Creators of Color. So it's a program put on by #Sports, which is where y'all went to a conference earlier this year. But Ish was named to a Creator of Color for the 2023 cohort. He got to spend a couple of days up there working with creators of color from all different backgrounds of places that they worked across the U.S. And so he had a fantastic time. It sounded like he just got back today.
Yeah, and the coolest thing about it too is, of course, he was recognized everywhere, all throughout the city, and they took him on different facility tours of the Minnesota Vikings, the Twins Stadium he went on. But he got a lot of merch too, which was really stinking cool. Like, he got a Rudy Gobert bobblehead, and he got a Vikings t-shirt.
I thought it was cool because he kept showing us pictures that anytime they would go tour one of the pro stadiums, they would put the slideshow up of the cohort up there. So his face was on the big jumbotron at the Vikings stadium.
Because that's what we need. We just need Shmail's face everywhere.
Yeah, so that being said, we're going to give you 2.5 hours of his face tomorrow on Texas Football Tonight. Somehow we keep making the same mistakes that others are.
Correct. We always need more Shmail. Ain't that
Do
right?
we?
Do we? Maybe not. Maybe not. Anyways, yes, 7:30 tomorrow night. We hope that you will join us on Texas Football Tonight, Week 5 of the Texas high school football season. All right, AP, before we bring in our friend Larissa, let's hear a word from our sponsors.
Born and bred in Texas hits a little different, as it should. Texas loves doing business with fellow Texans. VCR Now takes its Texas roots as seriously as its many partnerships with schools and universities around the state. It's also why we're so proud to promote our brand in the pages of the Texas Bible, Dave Campbell's Texas Football, and on the airwaves of Texas Football Today. Driven by producing quality broadcast video, state-of-the-art audio, and LED video scoreboards at affordable prices, VCR Now makes sure to listen to your needs in its athletic department before recommending the next best steps. Building great products is our business, and it's our focus on building meaningful, long-term partnerships with our clients that sets us apart. From our 24/7, 365-day help desk, the training lab in our hometown of Red Oak, or our sports marketing business plan that puts money back in the hands of our athletic departments we support, VCR Now is built to last. Reach out to us today at info@vcrnow.com or by calling 855-GO-VCR-NOW. Again, that's info@vcrnow.com or by calling 855-GO-VCR-NOW.
All right, AP, let's head on over to the hotline and let's welcome in our friend from KRIS 6, Miss Larissa Liska. That's a tongue twister. Sports director down there in the Coastal Bend. Larissa, how you doing?
Doing good. I will tell you up front, wouldn't be the first time. I go by the nickname Lariska now.
Lariska. I love that. I'm just going to start calling you that if that's okay.
Oh, go for it.
I love it. Well, before we get into the nitty-gritty football talk, we love to kind of bring our guests on and learn a little bit more about them. Now, to my understanding, you were up in the Amarillo area covering Texas high school football last season. Now you're back home in the Coastal Bend region. So kind of give us your elevator pitch. What made you want to move back down there, and how's it been going?
Well, I've always kind of wanted to go back home. I know those teams like the back of my hand, and I know it's a great sports area to go to. And plus, I'm not going to lie, I miss the humidity. It sounds weird, but I miss the water and the beach life. So wanted to come back home, but I did love Amarillo. I mean, I can tell you what, Canyon ISD has one of the best stadiums I've ever seen. That's, not in the big Metroplex spot. Mm-hmm. So, kudos to them over there. And, I always keep an eye on some of those teams as well. So it's interesting seeing like how West Plains, and I believe their first or second year is doing over there. And keeping up with those guys, but I really do love being back home. So I moved here in July of last year. So actually this last football season, I did get to be in Corpus Christi, and it was a fun ride because Refugio took me to Arlington to cover the state championship. Wasn't the way it ended, but it was nice getting, going back to state and, covering that football environment. So that's what I love being back home too, just being so close to family and I mean, heck, really good baseball and softball as well.
Absolutely.
So I've loved being back home.
Whataburger Field's enough reason to move back anyway. What high school did you go to, Lariska?
I went to George West, and but it's funny because I'm from Three Rivers, and I always tell people whenever they ask me where I'm from, I say George West and Three Rivers, because if I didn't say Three Rivers, my church community would be mad. But if I didn't say George West, that's my alma mater. But it's funny because they're both rivals and they hate each other. If anybody's listening in, please, when we do the realignment next year or redo schedules, make that a game, because I didn't know it has been off the grid since 2013.
That's insane. Well, anyway, let's go ahead and get into the football talk here. District play starts for most teams this week. Anything kind of shock you or surprise you in non-district play so far down there in the Coastal Bend?
I've been keeping an eye on the Toloso Midway Warriors, and that was a team last year. I believe it was their second year head coach, Chris O'Neill. He's back, and that was a team I was kind of keeping an eye on. They looked like they had a chance last year. I know they made it, I believe, one round in playoffs, but they're in a tough district. You've got Cal Allen. That speaks for itself, the Alice Coyotes. And so I was kind of keeping an eye on them. They made some adjustments with their they got a new defensive coordinator. They stole him from Veterans Memorial. And Veterans Memorial had one of the best D lines last year, and he was their D line coach. So that was a great steal for Tolosa Midway. And they're 4-0 for the first time since 2009. And it's not like they're playing walk in the park teams either. So I would say that storyline, if they can beat Alice, I believe week 7, then they have a bye week 8, then they could play Cal Allen for the district title. And Max Preps only goes back to 2004. But as far as that goes, Tolosa Midway has not beaten Cal Allen from 2004 to now. Wow. So I don't know. I'm like, that could be a storyline to keep an eye on, those Warriors.
Absolutely. Now, and it seems like just looking at our rankings here, small school ball is kind of prevalent down there, especially in the rankings so far this season. Who do you think, maybe like a Refugio, has a chance to make a run at AT&T Stadium?
Oh,
To
definitely
AT&T Stadium.
Refugio. I
Yeah.
mean, and I haven't kept an eye on Shiner, at least what I looked at the beginning of the season. They're not in our area, but, Shiner's always been a tough matchup. I think Three Rivers could give them a run for their money this year. I think Three Rivers could kind of battle for that second spot in the district. They've got a great quarterback in Caden Solis. And then, everybody's talking about the wide receiver connection with Derek Lancaster. I mean, that has been really solid. But then again, you've got Refugio. I mean, they're the ultimate big dogs in that district alone. They've just got so much talent. And what I'm kind of looking forward to, I don't know when it would happen. One of my favorite games last year was actually the state semifinal in Houston when it was Refugio versus Timpson. And I know that game is on everybody's radar, the number 1 and number 2 team in 2A Division I. And Refugio just looks so good. You've got the fastest man in Texas, Ernest Campbell at wide receiver, Jordan King, one of the running backs. If y'all saw him at state last year, he looked like a brick wall. That man it does not leave the weight room, and they've just got so much other talent. I think Jordan Lewis, he made a big play a few weeks ago against Edna and stopped the game-winning touchdown. They've just got so much talent. I don't see them not bringing me back. But another team I'm keeping an eye on is Flower Bluff. They might not have the best record. We had a lot of lightning last week too, so a lot of games ruled a no contest. But Flower Bluff went pretty far last year. I just want to see them get it together. They're right there. So I just want to see what they can do. And I'm actually going to go watch them tonight, my first full game with Flower Bluff.
Nice. Ernest Campbell versus Terry Bussey is definitely something that we're hoping to see in that state semifinal game. But I do want to ask you about some of the larger schools, because down there in Region 4, obviously Veterans Memorial, Corpus Christi, Miller, those have traditionally been the powerhouses that's able to really make their way. There are some really good teams down in the valley this year that they would likely be meeting up with. They defeated them last year, but how are you feeling about the vibe around Miller and Vets and kind of looking forward, knowing that there is actually some competition this year in Region 4?
Miller, talking about Miller, they might have lost one of their top guys, Lonnie Atkinson, last year, but they don't really have the guy this year, but they look like a team. I'm really excited with what Miller's put together. And I think one thing that, might have been a little tough was they had a 2-quarterback system last year. And, they were successful with it, but now they're moving with Trevor Long. He's their main guy. And I really like where they've gone with that. I haven't seen too much of Miller yet, though, so I can't speak too much on them, but I like where they're going with it. I really like what they have over there. Now, Vets, I'm not going to lie, they surprised me. I know they lost against New Braunfels Canyon a few weeks ago, but they started the season with no quarterback. I think in this district, they had the least amount of returners. If you said, are they going to win district? I was not very high on it. But it's funny. They told me, I said, who's going to be your starting quarterback? They said, these are our top 2 guys battling for it. And then here's our 3rd string guy. He's a 6-foot, I think 2 or 3 basketball player, Billy White III. Well, guess who's been the guy who's been throwing the touchdowns? Their 3rd string quarterback, Billy White III. And, he's been hitting some of his top guys. That's the thing. He's got a lot of talent around him. Luke Johnson, who's a senior, is one of the big names they have. And then Christian Sabsuk, who's verbally committed to, I believe, Air Force. He's been a guy to keep an eye on. And those 2 guys are really helping this new quarterback fit in his role. And then their defense, I know they got an interception against New Braunfels Canyon. So that secondary, which Sabsuk and Johnson play both sides of the ball. So they have the endurance to go a full game both sides. So I think that week 9 matchup with Miller and Vets is really going to set the tone. But like you said, the Valley's got some good teams this year. It's not as stacked of a Veterans Memorial team as I've seen, but Ben Bittner is a great head coach. And I know if anybody can get them there, he can. But like I said, Miller, I really like where Miller's going. They've got a solid team this year. And I know they spoke really highly about their offensive line. So I don't know. That's going to be the hype. That week 9 is going to be the week for our big schools.
No doubt about that. One of my favorite questions to ask is about the players. I mean, there's a lot of talent, obviously, down there in the Coastal Bend region. Who are you keeping your eye out for this season, and who's making a little bit of noise down there?
Well, I definitely like again Christian Sabsuk. He's a guy that I got a great "you got mossed" catch the other day. I mean,
I
he's
love
a guy
that.
that will go up and battle, and same thing on defense. And I believe he's a kick returner. Like he'll return a lot of plays back too. And then obviously Refugio, Ernest the Flash Campbell's just so fun. And what I really like about Ernest is he's humble. He's just such a fun, happy guy, puts in the work and, believes in what Coach Herring is doing down there. So I really like him as well. And then Ingleside, the Mustangs, I really like the connection. Jaden Smith at quarterback and then Aiden Jacobson at quarterback and Jaden Smith at wide receiver. They haven't beat Sinton in a while. And that combo with a new head coach, they've really bought in under Coach Chris Minute. And, this could be the year. Sinton is having – they're having an average year this year. Last year was one of their stronger years. So, I think Ingleside will be fun to watch with their player connection. I interviewed them a while back, Aiden Jacobson and Jaden Smith, and they said, Jaden said, back in the day, actually, we were in kindergarten and we played football, and I accidentally hit him so hard in the gut, he quit.
Oh, no.
So it's great to see him back.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Last question for you, and this is probably Pickle and I's favorite question to ask anybody. Down there in the Coastal Bend, a lot of really great seafood, I would presume. So if we're heading
yes.
down there for a game, where are we going to eat?
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, that's a good call. I really like Docks because Docks is right on the water. Docks and Snoopy's are right by each other, so you really probably couldn't go wrong with both.
That's
but
amazing.
I love Docks because you're right underneath one of the bridges going out to Flower Bluff. I mean, and it's beautiful. I've been there at sunset. And yeah, great food, great drinks. You can't pass it up for sure.
All right, well, you go to Doc's, I'll go to Snoopy's, and we can meet afterwards at Scoopy's for ice cream because I'm a big Snoopy's girl.
That's amazing.
Oh, no, that's perfect. I love it.
Man, we need to get down there and
Yes,
do that.
correct.
That sounds like a
Correct.
fantastic idea. Well,
Great
Larissa,
views for a long time because it's not going to get cold anytime soon.
No
kidding.
absolutely not. Well, Larissa, thanks so much for hopping on today. I know that your schedule is just as busy right now during the football season, but really appreciate you taking the time and to talk a little bit about the Coastal Bend. And good luck the rest of the season. We hope to see you very soon.
Thank you so much. I hope to see you on Arlington.
Absolutely.
Bye, Larissa.
She is Miss Larissa Liska. You can follow her on Twitter at Larissa Liska. She needs to make it
Larissa.
Larissa.
That's so good. I
Larissa.
legitimately
You
called
did
her
say
that
that
for the rest of the time because I was like, that rules.
I thought that was really funny. Very insightful, though. She brought a lot of great knowledge, in-depth knowledge about the Coastal Bend. So give her a follow on Twitter for all of your South Coastal Bend news.
I'm sad she said Doc's. Doc's is great. Don't get me wrong. Snoopy's just holds my heart. They're literally right next to each other. I'm glad that she mentioned that.
That's so funny. What city is that in?
Padre Island. So it's like everyone when you say Padre Island, they're like, oh, South Padre Island. I'm like, no, that's down in the RGB. This is actually when you're getting into Corpus, you go over this massive bridge.
Okay.
And then it's literally Padre Island is the little thing. It's Aransas Pass is all kind of right there, and then Port Aransas is on the side. So it's right next to the huge bridge, but you've got the bridge, the seagulls, the bay, the sunset,
Elite.
the food.
We need to. We got to get down there.
Yeah, I'm thinking we need a weeknight. Can we move Vets and Miller to a Thursday night, please? Coach Bittner, hello. Coach
Asking for
Justin
a friend.
Evans, can we move that to a Thursday night, please?
Asking for a friend because we want to get down there. Well, that's a perfect segue into looking now all over the state about rankings. The Coastal Bend, let's start off there. Like we mentioned, there's or a Golden Triangle. We can start with the Golden Triangle if you'd like. Or we can start with the Coastal Bend because I figured we'd start there since we just heard
I didn't even
Larissa
realize
talk
that was
about
Golden Triangle.
all of the small school dominance down there. So let's go ahead and start off in 3A Division 1. Your beloved Edna Cowboys. Man, off to a 2-1 start. Only loss coming from Refugio this year, and it was only a 1-point loss. They made it to the state semis last year after beating Llano.
Why did you have to say it? Like
Because
it
I
didn't
wanted
need
to.
to be said.
Because
they every single Edna Cowboy.
fun. We were there.
Let
We were
me
there.
hear it afterwards. I have heard
Correct.
enough of it.
Correct. I wouldn't say we were there too, and it was a fun atmosphere. I mean, the two towns really came and
Oh, it is.
gathered together.
And Jimmy Mitchell was so great
He was so
afterwards. He's
good.
like, "Hey, Pickle, you gonna quit talking crap now?" He didn't say that, but it was something along those lines. He was like, "Who let her in here?" I was like, "Yeah, fair."
the fair assumption. But yeah, made it to the state semifinals last year, but ended up losing to Franklin, a respectable loss there, and they open up district play this week with London. So
Yeah, that's an underratedly good game. Jaden Clay has been great again, but the story of the Edna Cowboys team is just their offensive line is exceptional.
yes,
I mean
they're
that
huge.
they're
are so stinking big.
massive. And when we walked into Rattler Stadium in San Marcos last year for the state semifinal, or no, the regional final game,
Yes.
I saw that offensive line.
I think you
walk
turned
out.
to me and you were just like, they're big. And I was like, yeah,
I
they're
turned
big.
and I was like, oh my God, that offensive line is about to gobble Lano's
They're big.
defensive line. And they were all young kids last year. Edna can beat anybody up front, which is why the Refugio game was so interesting. Not only one, because Refugio is a powerhouse, they're a whole two classifications underneath, or a whole two divisions underneath. But the thing that made it so interesting is Refugio is so fast. How was Edna going to be able to keep up with a team that fast?
Right.
Obviously, Refugio ended up getting the better of them, but they're not going to see a team that fast again. I don't think, if you look at the remainder of their schedule and their playoff stuff. So I think they're a team to watch for in the playoffs.
I do too. They're going to make some noise.
Anyway, love you, Edna.
You got to say it. Moving on down to 3A Division 2, number 3 Tidehaven. They're off to a hefty 3-0 start, and they've outscored opponents this season 144-0. They have not allowed a single point all season, which is just insane to me. And Rice Consolidated, they open up in district play this week again with Rice Consolidated. So definitely a team to keep your eye on. I mean, that's really just super. That's always just mind blowing to me when you see a team that's, that has not allowed a single point, and we're already in week 5 of the season.
Yeah, especially because they're not There were a couple teams they were supposed to beat by not by that much, but like Goliad, they beat Goliad 30-0. That's not a pushover in week 1 of the season. That defense has looked outstanding, and Coach Lucio will be the first person to tell you that too. That defense is nasty, but they're also really experienced. A lot of returners from last year's regional final run, and they knew heading at the end of last year that this was going to be a really good year for them. They've looked impressive with that defense so far.
Oh yeah. And to round it out in the Coastal Bend region, 2A Division 1, Refugio checks in at number 2. They've got a 3-1 record already this season. Only loss coming to Hitchcock, which again is another respectable loss because Hitchcock
is 3A Division 1.
Correct.
Yeah.
And they're very good
Huge.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very respectable loss there. And they're, like Larissa said, they were kind of young last year. And they returned 17 starters. So that's one thing that to definitely keep your eye on this season, because a lot of that experience is coming back from that state finals run last year, and they're only getting better.
Yeah, they're scary because last year I talked to Jason Herring before the state championship game last year because I was on the desk with Bally, and if Coach Herring likes you, he calls you Haas. And so all I remember is Herring going, "Well, listen here, Haas. We're early. We did not expect to be here. We were not expecting to." Now, obviously, they always expect to be there, but he was like, "We're way early." He goes, "I knew for the next 2 years." Again, most of his athletes right now are sophomores.
Right.
But Ernest Campbell looks absolutely insane. That whole team, it's so fast.
Yeah.
But he knew last year they were early and should not have been there.
Well, and Holly was just an unstoppable force, too.
Oh, my God,
So,
yeah.
no one was going to beat them, you know.
No, again, and they were just much bigger than them.
Right,
and
exactly.
Holly could also play good enough defense that the speed didn't affect them like it affected a team like Edna previously this year.
Right.
But, yeah, Refugio and Timpson in the state semifinal is something that I desperately need in my life, and that game needs to be on a Thursday.
Yes, we need to make the trip down there. And it needs to be on Texan Live, too.
Yes, correct.
Anyways, yep, only 3 ranked teams in the Coastal Bend region, but don't worry, we're also covering the Golden Triangle region this week, and we've got a couple more ranked teams to look at. Starting in 5A Division 1, it's number 4, Port Arthur Memorial. And this team's off to a 3-0 start this season and have won each game by at least 3 scores or more. Head coach Brian Morgan is in his 6th year at Port Arthur Memorial and has amassed a 42-14 record overall. And this team is just loaded with athletes on both sides of the ball, especially I would say on the defensive side of the ball. Both them and Barbers Hill are the only undefeated teams in District 8-5A Division 1, and they're actually going to play each other, of course, towards the end of October, I would say probably for that district title. So again, only ranked teams in 8-5A Division 1, undefeated teams in 5A Division 1, and they'll play later in the October for the district title.
That's such a fun district. That is such a fun district.
Yeah.
Between them, Crosby is in that district. Kingwood Park's in that district. LaPorte's in that district. Like, that's a really, really fun. LaPorte's 3-1. Like, that's a fascinating.
It's a feisty district.
I was just going to say, you want to start talking about like one that to go ahead and start keeping your eye on as to who's going to make the playoffs. 8-5A Division 1 is definitely one of them, but Port Arthur's looks fantastic.
Yeah, I agree with that. They have Baytown Sterling this week, and our computer has them as like 40-point favorites, so they'll probably be 4-0, I would say.
Not to mention one of the teams that they got a big win on is the next one that we're fixing to talk about.
Oh, yeah. Perfect segue.
Thank
5A Division 2, number 7, PNG, or Port Neches Groves. Indians off to a 2-1 start, of course, like you just mentioned. Their only loss coming from 5A Division 1 powerhouse Port Arthur Memorial. And, man, also talking about tough districts, they have Fort Bend Marshall this week, which is that's a very, very interesting matchup.
That's probably one of the most enticing games across the entire state.
1,000%. Because if you remember back to last year, these teams, of course, met in the regular season because they're in the same district. Fort Bend Marshall handled them pretty well. They met again in the playoffs, and PNG pulled out their seats, and they said, nope, we're going to beat you this time around. And, of course, PNG made it all the way to AT&T Stadium for the state finals. But I think this is going to be a real big test for PNG against a really scary Fort Bend Marshall defense. They have not let up much points this year, and they're just big. They're big and fast on defense, so it's going to be a real test for the PNG offense for sure.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see. We talked about it with kind of like the Refugio being super fast. That's exactly how Fort Bend Marshall is, really, really fast-paced ball, and so that's why I think last year in the regular season, that speed caught PNG off guard.
Exactly.
Then they knew coming into it, okay, here's where we went wrong last time. Here's what we have to do to stop that speed, and they just bullied them. So we'll see if they have learned from their mistakes now that this is the third time that they're meeting in the last basically 365 days.
Right. For Division 2, we've got 2 ranked teams. Starting off, number 2, Silsbee. They're off to a 4-0 start, and they look pretty dang scary, I would say. They're outscoring opponents 197-55, and man, they're just rolling. They were my pick to make it to AT&T Stadium last year. However,
your beloved, they went into 4 overtimes with Cuero.
Exactly. But they were, again, I think they were a little bit early last year. I think Coach would be the first one to say that. But I would say they're one of my heavy favorites to make it to Arlington. I think this year.
Well, and that's the thing about Silsbee is we focus so much on the Draylon Miller show, which rightfully so. I don't think anybody's paying attention to just how well-rounded that team is. It's not just the Draylon Miller show this year.
The defense looks fantastic.
Defense
so far.
looks great.
Yeah.
I mean, really great. And that's the one thing that got him in the trouble last year. Silsbee, very rightfully so, is number 2 in 4A Division 2.
Yes. They get West Orange Stark to open up district play this week, and I think that'll be a good test for them.
Yeah,
I think,
and you can see all the highlights on Dave Campbell's Texas Football Tonight.
Woo, yeah.
Or watch the game on Dave Campbell's Texan Live. You can double screen it.
You could do both.
2 screen it. Porque no los dos.
Correct. And sticking with 4A Division 2, number 7, Hampshire Fournette, they're off to another 4-0 start. Last season, they made it to the 3rd round of the playoffs, the first time since 1991. So they're on quite the hot run right now, and they returned 14 starters in total. So a lot of experience coming back for this Longhorn team, and they've got a lot of dynamic athletes in a veteran squad. And they begin district play this week as well against Bridge City.
It's been fun to watch Hampshire Finette put it together because we knew that they had the guys, we knew that they could do it. They make it the long playoff run, like you said last year, and then the fact that they have continued on that success makes me really happy for Coach Wagner and his squad.
Yes, definitely. And to round it all out in the 3A Division II rankings, it's number 6 Newton. This team, they've had kind of a weird start. They're 2-0. But they've had 2 cancellations, one against Anahuac and then the other against Jasper, which would have been a really good game. But nonetheless,
I think Anahuac was because wildfires. I don't know. I do not know why the Jasper game was canceled.
Either. Now, the Anahuac, the wildfires make sense.
Yes.
There was, obviously we've had problems with that all year, but that would make sense because that was the first game of the season, so that wouldn't surprise me. But nonetheless, they're off to a 2-0 start with a big win over West Orange Stark last week, punching up a classification in 2 divisions. So huge win for number 6 Newton there. And they're a true contender. I think they were a true contender last season in Region 3, but fell to Harmony in the regional semis, and I think they could definitely make a tough run and might win the crown there in Region 3. They open up district play this week against Warren. So really excited to see what Newton can do this year. Again, I think they were a little bit early last year, but they've got the guys, they got the experience back to make some noise in Region 3.
Now they just want to play ball.
Now they just want to play ball.
They just want to not get games
canceled. No more
canceled.
cancellations for them. They just want to play ball. So there you go. All of the ranked teams in the Golden Triangle and Coastal Bend region. You can check out full rankings on texasfootball.com. Is it /rankings? Yeah, all 6A down to 1A Division 2. We got
and
you
private
covered.
School.
And private school, correct. Yes, all the way down to private school. All right, Pickle, you've already put it up. Here's my favorite segment of the week. Players to watch in the Coastal Bend and Golden Triangle area. Sorry, I was playing with my cord of my microphone or of my headphones, and I just
throwing crap over there.
I am. I'm done. I'm done with
I
you.
Quit.
What if I just did that?
If you quit, I quit.
Correct. We are a package deal. We're gonna go live
Where
on
they
the
both
beach
work
in the
here.
Coastal Bend area.
Yeah. Lariska, we're coming.
And we're staying.
They show up to do the show tomorrow, and it's like, where's Pickle and Mallory? We're sipping pina coladas in Port Aransas.
Correct. Don't tempt me. Don't tempt me there. All right, let's start off in the highest classification in the Golden Triangle region with Beaumont United offensive lineman Weston Davis. Big offensive tackle who's had offers from all over the country, but committed to play at Texas A&M back in June of this year. But he's still taking official visits. I think he's got one scheduled with Texas coming up very soon. He's 6'5", 275, and Coach Colbert said he's the leader on the offensive line and brings a huge upside and dynamic to this offense. And he also plays basketball at Beaumont United, which if you don't know anything about Texas high school basketball, Beaumont United is a powerhouse program in all of Texas high school basketball. So I guess that's really interesting. You typically see a lot of wide receivers or a lot of defensive backs also playing, maybe a lot of running backs playing basketball as well, but an offensive lineman at that size playing basketball, he's got some good footwork.
Yep.
Really, really good footwork and speed. So definitely want to keep your eye on there. Moving on down to Port Arthur Memorial defensive lineman Michael Riles. The junior recorded 5 sacks, 24 tackles for a loss, 2 forced fumbles, and 1 fumble recovery last season as a sophomore. He's 6'4", 240. And has multiple Power 5 offers, including Texas A&M, Texas, TCU, Houston, and USC. And you'll start to realize, too, as I'm going through these guys, a lot of them are either committed or have a lot of interest in Texas A&M. I think it's just because of how close they are, but a lot of these guys are going to Texas A&M. He's a disruptive force who can play at multiple positions on the line, so very versatile player there. And this defense is just kind of scary as a whole, with defensive back Davion Lyles in the secondary, and they returned 7 starters from last season, so a really, really scary, we've already talked about them a little bit, but a scary defense there with Michael Riles as the front runner. Moving on down to El Campo athlete Oliver Miles. He's playing both at quarterback and safety this season for the Rice Birds, and his stats last season, they pretty much speak for themselves. Now, let me take a deep breath here before I read off all of these. Because
And
I might need some water halfway through.
The sea lion is back.
Correct. Yes. 77 carries for 743 yards and 6 touchdowns. He threw for 237 yards and 3 touchdowns. And on the defensive side, he recorded 38 tackles, picked the ball off 3 times, and had 8 pass breakups. So that's a rap sheet there. Very, very
That's
impressive
a lot
one.
of sevens.
That's a lot.
He needs to. Well, he
Yes.
can't go to a casino because he's probably too young. But if he could,
If the probably 18,
Yeah.
17-year-old could.
could play slots, like he would be good.
Yeah, there's a good chance that this dude is just the best athlete on the field at all times. He's super fast. He's a multiple sport athlete who excels in both track and field and basketball, which is what a lot of college coaches are looking for nowadays. Guys that are versatile and that can play in different sports and are just all around good athletes. And he's currently committed to play for the Texas Tech Red Raiders. So he's very fun to watch. You should watch him. Moving right along to Jasper linebacker Ty Anthony Smith. I think Greg Powers really likes him. I've heard Greg Powers talk about him
Yeah, he rules.
a lot.
Like he's one of those guys that rules at football.
Yes, correct. Another Texas A&M commit on the list for this week. And last season alone, dude, this is insane. He recorded 118 total tackles, 76 solo, 6 tackles for a loss, 4 pass breakups, and 1 forced fumble. I mean, that's a scary guy to put back there.
Oh, he's fun to watch. And that's the thing. This Jasper team is absolutely chock full of top prospects. And Ty Anthony Smith still sticks out.
Right,
like,
exactly.
You can go down their roster and almost all of those guys could go play. Like, all the starters could go play at the next level. Now, what level depends on it. But he legitimately still sticks out above the rest of them.
Well, and I think a lot of that is, too, he can play either inside or outside linebacker. So he's versatile. He can he's versatile, and you can put him pretty much anywhere down in the back end there. But I'm really still sad that we didn't get the Jasper Newton matchup because that would have been a lot of fun to watch. Do I even have to mention this next guy?
Never heard of him.
I never heard of him. But you can't talk about these regions and not mention at least once Draylon Miller?
Sounds about
wide
right.
receiver from Silsbee?
You can watch him tomorrow night on Dave Campbell's Texan
absolutely
Live.
Watch him. And let's keep it
And
rolling
every
with
week.
the Texas A&M commits because, yes, he is another Texas A&M commit. He's the number 3 overall prospect in the class of 2024 in the DCTF Hot 100 player rankings, brought to you by our very own director of recruiting, Greg Powers. And dude is just he's a generational type talent that you just don't see anywhere. Everywhere, I guess I should say, especially down there in the, I guess, Golden Triangle region. 1,400 receiving yards, 24 touchdowns as a junior. He's put up just almost 500 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns through 4 games this season. Dude, you can watch every single one of his games on Texan Live already. He's deep. He's a deep downfield threat with just a dynamic run after catch ability. And he's a blast to watch. So if you really want to watch what this dude's all about, you can watch him every single week on TexasFootball.com.
TexanLive.com.
Texan Live, excuse me.
You can read more about him.
You can read more about him on TexasFootball.com, but you can actually watch him on TexanLive.com. And yeah, we'll be covering him a lot this week, so make sure to tune in to that. Moving right along to Ingleside, wide receiver and defensive back Jaden Smith. Larissa talked about him a little bit. He's a really fun guy to watch. And do you know where he's committed to play?
I do not.
Caw.
The
North Texas
I did know
Mean
that.
Green.
Correct.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that when she said it.
Here's the thing about him, too, is that he really, his stats speak for himself last year. But his tape really got out there during the spring of this past season, and that's when he really started to get the eyes on him. He's
got a little bigger, too.
He did get a little bit bigger. He's a dynamic and explosive athlete who can be utilized in multiple positions. He does play on both sides of the ball. He caught 50 passes for just over 1,000 yards and 21 touchdowns last season. and add 21 tackles and 2 interceptions on the defensive side of things. The Mustangs are rolling. They're 4-0 this season, and Smith has played a huge role in that. Through 4 games already this season, Smith has already racked up 686 yards and 13 total touchdowns this year. Eyes are on him. He's a fun player to watch. Don't forget his name. And let's round it all out with Newton, wide receiver and defensive back Raylan Adams. Over 1,000 yards on offense and 21 touchdowns last season for the dynamic athlete, and over 100 tackles and 6 interceptions as a junior. He's, again, very, very dynamic. He's one of those guys on Newton where he just kind of stands out with a stacked Newton team there. And he's a guy that Coach Johnson can just rely on pretty much anywhere, and he can be put anywhere on the field and succeed. He's versatile, he's quick on his feet, and just a threat to any team that has to face him during this season. And he's committed to the Fighting Schmales, the Texas State Bobcats. I love that we call them that. The Fighting I saw that and I was like, oh yeah, the Fighting Schmales. Committed to play for GJ Kinney squad there at Texas State. So fun player to watch. Schmale, I bet Schmale already knows about him, but could keep your eye on this guy. He's going to the Fighting Schmales.
Schmale and Schmale adjacents. Please keep Raylan Adams in your eyes.
What does that mean? What does that mean? Schmale adjacents.
Yeah.
Like other Fighting Schmales?
Yes.
Okay. I like that. Are we Schmale adjacent?
No. I do not want to consider myself Schmale adjacent.
Yeah.
I just happen to sit next to him. I don't enjoy it.
Correct. Well, anyways, there you go.
I killed her.
There you go. All your Coastal
It took
Bend and
50
Golden
episodes.
Triangle information that you want. Probably more than you'd ever get to expect. But do you have anything else before we go? Because I gotta get out of here.
You gotta go and get. You're heading to Tyler.
I'm going to Tyler.
That rules. Are you going to Stanley's?
Correct. I am going to
Let's
Stanley's.
go.
Carter Yates and I are heading down to, I guess, over east to Tyler to watch Tyler High School play McKinney North. I'm really excited because
Rose
there's
Stadium's rules too.
Yeah, I've never been there, and there's just a ton of talent on both teams too. A lot of cool prospects that we're gonna get to see over there. And yeah, we're gonna eat at Stanley's, so I'm really pumped about that.
First time at Stanley's, right?
Yes, I've heard a lot of really good things about it, and I hope that I'm not disappointed. I don't think I will
you
be.
Will not be. If you get the Step swears by the brother-in-law sandwich. I swear by the. Say this very slowly and very carefully. The Mother Clucker sandwich. Okay,
I like that.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm really pumped. That'll be really fun. The Thursday slate around the DFW area, not the best. So we were like, hey, let's just leave. Let's leave the DFW area and go to Tyler. So really, really pumped for that. But yeah, I think that's gonna do it for us.
Watch Texas football tonight. Tomorrow.
Watch Texas football tonight at 7:30 p.m. You can see the Fighting Schmales and Nick Laufius on the desk there. Really fun slate of spotlight games this week, so please make sure to tune in tomorrow night to TexanLive.com to watch Texas football tonight at 7:30, and we will be back next week on Women Talking Football, of course, next Thursday at 2 p.m. We'll see you then. And go Rutgers!